Well, hi there. Are you enjoying this discussion? I trust you are. You're bringing some others with you, maybe. Join in with the discussion. We're having a look at the foundations right now of our faith. And Paul has indicated the foundation is Jesus Christ, and of course that is. Then there's a building on that foundation. So what are we actually building on it? What should we be built on it? We saw here what Paul had referred to, the silver, the gold, the hay, the stubble, all that stuff is one aspect of it, but when it hits the storms of life, it shakes it. I mean, when you hit a storm in life, how is your faith affected? What you've built on your faith. I mean, what have you built on your faith? How's that all stand today? Your involvement in the things of God, the charity, the church. What's the motive? Motives. I guess we could go and talk about some of those things. But I just want to take you to a parable here in Matthew chapter 7 and verse 24. This is a very good parable. And it kind of throws a little bit of light on this. It says, therefore, whoever hears these sayings of mine, now that's a critical word. This is Jesus speaking, this parable. Whosoever hears these sayings of mine. Now, of course, he's got a great big audience here, and they're listening, if you like. And do they hear? Don't they hear? Well, he gives a criteria for this. Let's go on. Whosoever hears these sayings of mine and does them. So it's one thing to hear, it's another to do. So what action follows with what we hear God speaking to our heart? Is there an action? Do we apply an action? What is that? Well, he says here, I will liken you, who? The one who hears and does. I will liken you to a wise man who built his house upon a rock. And then the rain came and descended, and the floods came, and the winds blew, and they beat upon that house. And it did not fall, for it was founded upon the rock. Okay? So now he's going right to foundation here. Foundation is solid, it's secure, it's on a rock. So you can talk about the slab that we build houses on today, concrete slab. And then he goes on a little further. And he says, but everyone who hears these sayings of mine, same thing, criteria, who hears them, but he doesn't do them. So now he's making a difference here. This is what we need to learn from here. That you hear, but you don't do, will be likened to a foolish man who built his house upon the sand. And then the rain descended, and the floods came, and the winds blew, and they beat upon the house exactly the same as it did on the other one, but it fell, and great was the fall. So here now he's going right back to the foundation. I don't know whether it's another story, I suppose, might just throw a bit of light on it, but I mentioned in our last session about an earthquake in Christchurch 10 years ago. A lot of those houses were paid out by the insurance company. There were all kinds of destruction. Some of it was on sand as a base. The sand had fallen, or the water had come in underneath all of that, and it broke down the support around the foundation, and the foundation had to stand alone. It either cracked, it bent, or it stayed. We went and had a look at a house, had a for sale sign on it. We went and had a look at this house, and it was about half price, actually. And so I said to the person selling at the agent, I said, why is this house so cheap? And she said, well, because the house actually looked very good. It was a 4-bedroom. It was a nice house. It was still groomed nicely. It really looked a great house. So, but the owners of it were selling it off because they wanted to move on. They'd been paid out from the insurance company. They paid for the land and they were paid for the building. So what was the problem here? So I say to her, so why now is this? Well, she said, we're really selling it at land value. And I said, well, so why are you doing that? She said, well, the back corner of the house, there's not much of a fall, but the foundation has fallen away a bit in that far corner of the house, which means that the insurance company will not insure it any longer because it could fall further. Eh? It was a foundational problem. So the house was sold for half price, less than half price, to somebody who was prepared to take it on, no cover from the insurance, but use it as an investment. Somebody would get a house for somebody to live in, but the foundation gave in, so the structure was faulty or was at risk. Now, have a look at that in our life. Come back to here now. What he is trying to say here. He says, look, if you build a foundation, is the basis of that is that you hear the word and you do something with it. That's the building upon the foundation of Jesus Christ. Here we see the foundation that's been laid. Yes, it is, but it's not on a solid foundation. It's not upon the rock. It's on a foundation that's going to wash away. So that's where I come back to my point in the last session, is how secure was your born again experience? How real was it? What is the foundation that you've built in your life on the person of Jesus Christ? That becomes critical in understanding as we continue to go on. So what is the structure now? What is this foundation that's been built? Well, I call it the structures, our beliefs, our commitment is tried, our faith is being tried. That's the day we're living in today. I mean, there's a lot of things going on. Is that the church is being challenged, is being tried right across the world. In fact, politicians are trying to marginalize the church, do away with the church, push away the church. Will that happen? I mean, if there was something severe that happened, that the churches were closed, where is our faith then? Where's the foundation that's been laid in our hearts and our lives of the person of Jesus Christ? See, the structure, we could say the structure is the building of the church, or the building structure that we all gather together. Now we're not allowed to gather together. What does that do to the foundation of our faith? What does that do? That's my question. So let's have a look at one or two other things here. It's in Isaiah chapter 28, verse 16. Therefore, thus says the Lord, behold, I lay in Zion, Zion's the house of God, a stone for a foundation. It's a tried stone. It's precious. It's a cornerstone. It's a sure foundation. And whoever believes will not act hastily. So now he's saying, I've laid, this is him now, he's the cornerstone. We will try and address that if we get time to do that in this here, just to give you a bit of an understanding of this. In Psalm 89 and verse 14, righteousness and justice are the foundation of your throne. That's what's being challenged today. Mercy and truth go before you and before your face. Ephesians 2 and verse 20. Having been built on the foundation, here we are, back to foundation, of the apostles and the prophets. And now we're extending this. This is where the foundation becomes important in understanding. Let's go on. And build upon the foundation of the apostles, the prophets, Jesus Christ himself being the chief cornerstone, in whom the whole building has been fitly joined together. It grows into the holy temple in the Lord, in whom you also are being built together for the dwelling place, for God and for his Spirit. Wow. So let's pause for a minute and have a look at the cornerstone. This is actually quite important. I'm going to do a study on this, and we might address this a little further on, but let me introduce it here because it's critical when we're talking about foundation. And this is what the definition of a cornerstone. The cornerstone, or the foundation stone, is the setting stone, is the first stone that is set in the construction of a building or masonry or of a foundation. All other stones will be set in reference to the stone, thus determining the position of the entire structure. So I don't know, do you understand a building? Let's just say that this here is going to be the cornerstone of the building we're going to build. When it says that all things are going to be set from here, that means the line of the building, whichever way it goes, is all taken from the reference point of the cornerstone. So that's important because from here, the foundation is laid, the rest of the foundation, and then the building that goes on top of that foundation when it is laid. So the cornerstone is critical. So now what the Bible is saying, that he, Jesus Christ, he is this cornerstone. He's the cornerstone by which all the foundation and the building upon the foundation is established. So this is critical. So we need maybe a good study. You might want to have a look at that. And well, have we got time? Maybe I'll introduce you to this to see what it is. This is there are other stones. You have a look at this, and we'll talk about it in the next study. But it's in 1 Peter chapter 2 and verse 4, and goes through to verse 9. It actually talks about you and I being lively stones. So now the cornerstone, the foundation doctrine here is talking about the apostles and prophets doctrine, is also Christ's doctrine. So the cornerstone is laid here, and now you and I, the living stones, are what is being brought together to build the structure of the temple by which he will dwell in by the Holy Spirit. Well, that's enough for you. That's what got you going, maybe. It's a good discussion. Why don't you share? Why don't you study the word and have a look at that? Go back, study the cornerstone, study the foundation, and see what the foundation is, and see whether you can go. I've come up with a lot in that area of the foundation. It's amazing. I trust it's helpful to you. Click on subscribe. You'll know when the next stage comes. This foundation aspect to all of our belief is very, very important. In fact, it's critical. So hang in there with us and join in the conversation. Let your friends come with you. Click on subscribe. Send us an email. Love to hear from you. God bless you. You have a wonderful week. Circulate this. God bless.